Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today, we're going to do what we do best, and that's dive deep into some of today's top stories. We got three kind of interesting ones that we're going to look at, and on the surface, they don't seem related at all, but stick with us. There's always some interesting connections waiting to be found.
Yeah, I love when we find those connections. It's like a little puzzle.
It is a puzzle, and I think you'll be fascinated by what we uncover today. So we're going to start off with healthcare. There's a new ProPublica investigation out that's raising some eyebrows and some serious questions about how healthcare decisions are being made. And then we'll move on to the animal kingdom. Scientists have discovered not one, but four new species of king cobra.
Ooh.
Yeah, so cool.
I love snakes.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah. And then finally, we'll end with a little bit of glitz and glam and dive into the 2025 Grammy nominations.
All right. Sounds like a good lineup.
Yeah. So let's start with healthcare. This ProPublica investigation, it centers around this company called EvaCore. Have you ever heard of them?
EvaCore? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. Most people haven't. But they play a really big role, a huge role, in the U.S. healthcare system. They're basically the gatekeepers for a lot of insurance companies. And we're not just talking about a small number of people. We're talking about 100 million people.
Wow.
That's roughly 1 in 3 insured Americans.
So they have a lot of power.
They do. They have a ton of power. So basically, you know how sometimes you need to get a prior authorization from your insurance company before you can get certain medical treatments?
Yeah, it's always such a hassle.
Oh, it's the worst. Well, EvaCore is the company that reviews a lot of those requests, and they use these algorithms to basically determine who gets approved and who gets denied.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Algorithms.
So these algorithms, they're making these really important decisions about people's health care.
They are. And that's where things get a little bit, a little bit scary. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What did ProPublica find out about EvaCore?
Well, they spent months digging through internal documents, corporate data, talking to former employees, and they uncovered some pretty disturbing stuff. One of the big things they found was that EvaCore uses an algorithm. They nicknamed it the dial, and it can be adjusted to manipulate denial rates.
Wait, so they can actually change the algorithm to deny more people coverage?
That's what the investigation suggests. And according to some of these former employees, there was a lot of pressure to deny claims, like a lot of pressure.
It's like healthcare by spreadsheet.
Yeah, basically.
So it's all about the bottom line.
Seems that way. And ProPublica actually found that some of EvaCore's contracts, especially these things called risk contracts, they actually incentivize the company to deny more claims. So the more they deny, more money they make.
Wow, that's a huge conflict of interest.
It is.
Yeah.
And it raises these really big questions about, the role of algorithms in healthcare and how we balance cost control with, patient care. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, these are people's lives we're talking about.
Right, and who's looking out for the patients in this system?
That's the big question, right? ProPublica actually tells this really heartbreaking story about a man named Little John Cupp. He was 61 years old. He was from Ohio, and he desperately needed this heart procedure. His doctor was like, "You need this. This is important." But EvaCore denied his request.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they denied it not once, but twice. And tragically, Mr. Cupp passed away before he could get the care that he needed.
Oh, that's just awful.
It is. It's really sad. And it just makes you think, what if his request had been approved? What if he'd gotten the care he needed? Would he still be alive today?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it definitely makes you think. I mean, this whole thing is pretty scary, to be honest. It feels like we're putting so much trust in these algorithms without fully understanding how they work or the potential consequences.
Yeah, right. It's a black box for most of us. And, the scary thing is, this is just one company.
Right.
This is just EvaCore. Who knows how many other companies are using similar algorithms and similar tactics to make decisions about our health?
It's kind of a wake-up call, isn't it? We need to be paying more attention to how these algorithms are being used, not just in healthcare, but in all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. We need more transparency, more accountability. We need to make sure that these tools are being used ethically and responsibly, because at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives. And that's not something we can just leave to algorithms to decide.
Thinking about that EvaCore story, it really highlights something we've been talking about a lot lately, about algorithms and data and how much power they have.
Absolutely. It's like we're handing over these huge decisions to these black boxes.
Right.
And we don't even really understand how they work half the time.
Exactly. And it's not just in healthcare either, right? It's everywhere.
It is. Think about that story that we talked about earlier about the king cobras. Like that discovery, it was made possible because of data, right? The scientists analyzed all this genetic information, physical observations, all kinds of stuff, museum specimens,
Hmm.
to figure out, like, hey, there's actually four distinct species here.
Right, and that's amazing, right? Like that's a huge discovery and it could lead to, more effective antivenoms, all kinds of things. But then you think about it and you're like, well, that same data, that same information could be used for not so great things, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Could someone take that genetic information and create like a bioweapon or something?
I mean, that's a terrifying thought, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Right. It's
You know,
like with great power comes great responsibility or something.
Spider-Man, yeah.
But it's true though. It's true. It's like we have this incredible power now to analyze information and make decisions based on data, but we have to use it wisely, right?
And absolutely, we have to think about the ethics,
No.
the unintended consequences,
Yeah.
the whole picture.
A whole picture, exactly. Okay, so speaking of data and how it's shaping things, let's talk about the Grammys.
Okay, yeah, let's lighten things up a bit. Grammys.
Grammys. So, I mean, this is an industry where data plays a huge role, right? Like all those streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, they're collecting mountains of data about what we listen to.
Oh, they know everything.
They know everything and they use that data to, create those personalized playlists and recommendations and all that stuff, which is, cool sometimes, but also a little creepy. But it also has a huge impact on the music industry itself, right?
Absolutely.
Like record labels, they're using data to find new artists, to track trends, to like predict what songs are going to be hits. It's like they're trying to like crack the code of musical success or something. Yeah.
It's like Moneyball, but for music.
Exactly. And it's not just, the business side of things either. Like data is also changing the way we discover and experience music. Like remember back in the day how we used to like rely on radio DJs or music magazines to tell us what was cool?
Oh, yeah.
Now it's all algorithms.
Algorithms are the new DJs.
Right. So they're curating our listening experiences. They're, sometimes introducing us to artists and genres that we might never have found on our own, which is cool. But then you also wonder like are we getting stuck in these like algorithmic echo chambers where we're only hearing music that confirms our existing tastes?
That's a really good point. It's like the algorithm might know what I like, but does it really know what I need? Like, what's going to challenge me, surprise me? Yeah, expand my musical horizons.
Right. So it's this balance, right? How do we harness the power of data without sacrificing serendipity and creativity and the joy of discovering something truly unexpected?
That's a great question, and I think it's something we need to be asking in all areas of our lives, not just music.
Absolutely. Whether it's healthcare, science, music, like you name it, if data is involved, we have to be mindful of both the opportunities and the potential pitfalls.
We've gone from algorithms in healthcare and new king cobras slithering around
Mm-hmm.
to even the Grammys and how data is kind of reshaping the music industry. But it's really amazing how these stories that seem so different all kind of tie back to that theme of data.
It really is. Like data is everywhere. It's shaping everything, the present, the future, and you know what? Even the past.
Yeah, that's right. We're learning so much about the past thanks to data analysis, especially DNA analysis. Like, that story about Pompeii, the city that was buried by Mount Vesuvius?
Yeah, Pompeii, of course.
Well, they're using DNA analysis to study the remains of the people who died in that eruption. And it's like totally changing our understanding of what happened. Like, for example, there's this one house, archaeologists call it the House of the Golden Bracelet. They found these three skeletons there. One was an adult wearing gold bracelet holding a child skeleton, and then another adult skeleton nearby. So naturally, everyone assumed it was a family, a mom, her child, and maybe the dad, all trying to escape the eruption together. Tragic, right?
Yeah, really sad.
But then they did DNA analysis, and it turns out the adult with the bracelet was a man, and he wasn't related to the child.
Wow. So it wasn't a family at all. That's a big twist.
Yeah, it changes the whole story, and it makes you think, how many other stories about the past have we gotten wrong? Because we just made assumptions.
That's a great point. Data is like a detective uncovering these hidden truths about history.
It's like we're constantly rewriting history as we get more information. And it's not just about the past. Data is also blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. Like, remember that viral video of the elephant walking through Times Square?
Oh, yeah, that was crazy. I thought it was real for a minute.
A lot of people did. But it turned out it was totally AI generated, like a hyper-realistic fake.
Which raises all sorts of questions, right? Like, where do we draw the line between entertainment and deception? How do we know what's real anymore?
Exactly. And who's responsible for making sure this technology isn't used to spread misinformation or create harmful deepfakes? It's a whole new ethical minefield.
It is, and it's just another example of how data is changing everything, and we're just starting to figure out how to navigate this new landscape.
So from healthcare algorithms to king cobra DNA to AI-generated elephants, today's deep dive has taken us on quite a journey.
It really has. It's amazing to see how all these seemingly disparate stories are connected by this common thread of data.
And I think it's clear that data is going to continue to play an increasingly important role in our lives.
Absolutely. It's changing the way we understand the world, the way we make decisions, the way we experience reality itself.
But with all this power comes responsibility. We need to be mindful of how we use this data, how we interpret it, and how we protect ourselves from its potential downsides.
Couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. In this age of information overload, it's more important than ever to think critically, to question your assumptions, and to be discerning about the information you consume.
Well said. We need to be the curators of our own information diets.
Exactly. So keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and keep exploring the world with a curious and critical mind. And thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the stories that matter.